Hey, David Brewster here with an episode of Three-For-All, and this is the 100th episode special. And I did make a special for the 50th episode. I didn't even know if I would make it to 100 episodes, and here we are. So I'm going to do another special, now that we've reached the 100th episode. And I did have requests, pretty much the entire time I've started this channel for my own ideas, my own licks, songs, and, secrets and little things that I've kind of uncovered in my career. And in the comments section leading up to this lesson, I had a couple friends that I made in Atlanta at AIM, the Atlanta Institute of Music, Dave Clayton, Carl Donahue. And Dave and Carl were kind of chiming in, and Carl said, 3 David Brewster licks, and then my friend Dave, one of my old roommates from AIM, he was like, yeah, show some AIM licks, and, licks that you knew or played back when you were in school. The licks in this lesson actually came from me, and these are all my own ideas, but they're very old, and these actually came from a lick book that I created when I was a student at AIM down in Atlanta, Georgia. And nobody told me to do this. I just kind of instinctively did it, and then I showed some of my instructors, and they were like, yeah, that's great, keep doing that. But I bought a binder, I made some copies of some blank, tab paper. And every day I wrote a lick. I made myself, even if I didn't feel like it, or I was sick, or, if my, fret hand was all thumbs that day or whatever, I still made myself sit there. Some days I might spend an hour, writing a lick and then writing it out. Other days maybe it was like 5 minutes and I just quickly jotted something down. But I still have my lick book from way back when. And I did that for a few years, and it's interesting to go back and look, and I can see like licks and phrases and ideas that I was writing and making, back when I was technically a late teenager and, in my early 20s. It was a long time ago. And I did want to take a second and announce that my 10th published book, Shapeshifting, which is through Center Stream Publications, which is part of Hal Leonard, that was recently released. It came out this month, and I guess, with everything going on in the world, I didn't really have a notification or a heads up. It was released. And then I got the email after the fact, like, hey, your book came out. But I am really proud and honored to have my 10th published book, under my belt. The first lick from my old lick book is this kind of slip and slide F sharp minor 7 arpeggio idea, something like this. One more time, a little slower. And I do remember I liked ending that with that shift slide and then a bend, a little half step bend from G sharp to A. But I didn't pick that note again. I just liked smearing into that A note. And I also like that blurry, kind of mix and match where we're moving from, F sharp minor 7. And right there, that's kind of like B diminished 7. And it definitely reminds me now of Randy Rhoads. At the time, I don't think I was really paying attention to the sound, but looking back and listening to it, it's like, yeah, I could kind of hear a big Randy Rhoads influence there. Next up is this blurry hybrid pentatonic idea in E7, something like this. One more time, a little slower. And once again, I do remember I like that slippery, blurry, kind of chromatic, infused idea where we're kind of flirting with, E minor pentatonic, but then also, raising the third, and we keep targeting, that major and minor third throughout. So I do remember that kind of blurry, sound of just mixing those notes around and shifting and sliding through the notes of that scale and adding, some chromatic notes in there too. like right there. And I also remember that little phrase. I thought that was interesting. And then right there, G to G sharp. But I do remember working with that one, and I wanted the last note, that bend, to just like fall, you know, right on the downbeat. And you kind of have that big ending, you know, right at the end of the lick. All right, up next is this Blurry E minor slip and slide lick. And I do remember I was wanting to take 2 strings and shift from one position on the fretboard to a much higher area on the fretboard. You know, something like this. Now a little bit slower. And I do admit this is a big challenge for the pinky, because all the shifting seems to take place with the pinky finger. And we're also kind of blurring. There's kind of an implied E harmonic minor just for a second, because I hit that D sharp, but then I am targeting D natural, you know, the rest of the time. Like right there. So it's an interesting phrase, and the way it's, you know, arranged on the fretboard, and, you know, those shift slides kind of make it tricky. But I do like that blurry sound. You know, you kind of hear it and it's like, what is that? Because it just, you know, cruises along the fretboard and ends up, you know, on a much higher note. I'm definitely a fan of that sound. You know, it starts lower, and then the next thing you know, you're on this really high note. Here's a bonus lick from my old lick book, and it's this jazzy kind of chromatic hybrid pentatonic idea in E7, something like this. Once again, a little bit slower. And I totally remember when I came up with that lick, I was trying to inject, you know, chord form-based fingerings, you know, into my licks and phrases. You know, I was studying some Larry Carlton and Robin Ford and some people like that. And I do remember I targeted this E9. You know, I thought of that fingering, and I thought, well, what if I started the lick like that? And just, you know, targeted that chord shape, but played it, you know, as an arpeggio. And there I'm really just kind of playing around with, you know, E hybrid, you know, or E mixed Lydian pentatonic, I guess. So I'm kind of playing with that middle part of that little arpeggio right there. And once again, I remember I wanted to target, you know, that last note, that last bend, to kind of set that up almost like a cherry, you know, on top. That's going to wrap this episode of Three-For-All with the 100th episode special. And I definitely, you know, I was thinking about it, and I knew I was getting close to 100 episodes, and I started thinking, what am I going to focus on? And it wasn't until some of my buddies from school chimed in on Facebook, and you know, my buddy Dave, my old roommate, was like, yeah, aim licks. And I thought, man, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because definitely my time in school was great, you know, one of the highlights of my life. Massively inspired, surrounded by, you know, amazing, you know, instructors and students, and, you know, we had clinics and everything that came through, Sean Lane and Andy Timmons and Scott Henderson, and, it was a great, great time for sure. And I look back on it fondly, where it's like, wow, I'm so glad that I chose to go to school there. I'm glad that my parents didn't say, no, are you crazy? We're not sending you to Georgia. They were totally supportive. They were like, okay, you don't like where you're going to school now? Then go check out the school in Atlanta. I took a tour, met some of the faculty, talked to some of the students, and I was like, this is exactly where I want to go. It was all laid back, and you had that kind of southern comfort kind of feeling where it was like, okay, this is nice. And definitely made some great friends, and I'm still talking to them and friends with them today. Anyway, I'm blabbing here. So leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content material. Thank you.